Final Fantasy spin-off games are numerous, and much like the namesake of the main series itself, will never be final. The latest in these experiments is Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. A quick note up front, all the game footage you're about to see was captured from my PlayStation 5. The concept of it follows Jack Garland and his small band of friends as they travel the land to kill chaos. Everything takes place within the world of Final Fantasy 1, sort of, I'll get to that. During this, Jack and his companions can choose jobs, find new equipment, and mercilessly pummel every enemy before them before fighting a boss. It's easy to compare its combat to something like any Dark Souls game or Elden Ring, but that would not be accurate. If you know of Team Ninja's previous games, Neo or Neo 2, then Strangers of Paradise is much more like that, running on the same engine. Every job has a standard attack that can be followed up by a special skill, making a combo ability. You can block, parry, dodge roll, and cast magic spells, which uses up your magic points alongside combo abilities. Strangers of Paradise also features a break gauge, a yellow bar representing your stamina of sorts. It depletes when blocking, some attacks will permanently reduce it for the remainder of that battle, and it also allows you to soul parry. Using soul parry drains your own break gauge, but also allows you to negate an enemy's attack, increasing your maximum MP bar, and sometimes allows you to steal the enemy ability to use right back at them. I found myself using this the most, as it makes the shield parry redundant. It rewards timing for parries, paying attention to enemy signaling, and knowing when to just absorb an ability. When your break gauge is reduced to 0, you are put into a stunned state for several seconds. When an enemy's break gauge goes to 0, you can do elaborate finisher animations where they explode into bloody crystals. This allows for a faster execution and rewards you with a substantial recharge of magic points. And during boss fights, you can take out entire halves of health bars by going for the break instead of whittling down their hit points. These boss fights in particular are frantic, engaging, and require a lot more studying of their movements before diving in. These are needed refreshing encounters, as there is a notable lack of enemy variety. You'll see the same robots and ogres numerous times. And the combat is great. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy trying out different jobs, mixing abilities, and using soul parry to stay ahead in boss fights. And the best part about all of it is that it's 3-player co-op. That's how I played throughout the entirety of the game. I had a lot of fun with my friends as we were comboing together and changing jobs to supplement each other's play styles. All of that was great. That said, if you're going to be playing on 3-player, make sure you switch to hard mode. If you're going to be playing single player, however, your AI companions are nigh worthless. They hardly attack or do anything helpful. They're not even good at being a target for enemies for a brief moment. You have no means of changing their behaviors or parameters, and their choice of playable jobs are incredibly restrictive. You can activate them into more aggressive modes, which lasts all of 10 seconds, and even then is hardly reliable. If you can, co-op is the way to go. Thankfully, your character is incredibly customizable, to an almost excessive degree. There are a few dozen different job classes to play as. As you level those up, you can access new combo abilities, passive traits, and unlock advanced jobs. They all have their own merit, are worth experimenting with, and you can have 2 equipped at any time, allowing you to further mix and supplement each one. Between the jobs and the different weapon types available for each, there is a lot of variety in the way you want to play, and tons of armor for variety in the way you look, which you'll have tons of different armor pieces to choose from because Strangers of Paradise is an absolute loot fest. You are constantly picking up new weapons and armor all the time. It gets to be overburdening and irritating. You will end any given level with having picked up over 100 pieces of new equipment. To give an idea of how much that is, you have a maximum inventory size of 500 things. After 3 levels, I was almost full, and things were sent to storage, which has a maximum size of 4,500. It is a constant struggle of similarly named items being of different rarity for only slightly different stats, but having widely different job affinity, and all while trying to not look completely stupid. I felt like I was in menus looking at all the new crap I picked up more than actually playing the game. For such a smooth action game with fluid combat, it is perforated with sifting through menus, trying to discern what loadout is better for you, and then giving up and slapping the automatic optimize button, resigning to the suboptimal choices it deigned you with. There's always that hope that enduring all of that is worth it if the story is good. It isn't. It's really, really stupid. The most disappointing part of it all is that it isn't as memey or so bad it's funny as people were expecting, what with a constant hate boner for killing chaos. Every single cutscene is so disjointed that it can be hard to follow along, and character interactions bear no resemblance to human speech. You could tell me the entire game was written by a rogue AI and I would believe you. None of the party members show any kind of emotion that isn't grimaced out of a stunted cutscene, and even banter during battle falls entirely flat, devoid of any charm they were hoping to infuse. None of the supporting cast boasts any kind of real personality trait, and main character Jack's personality can be described as the kind of guy that rips his shirt off when he takes a shit. The whole point of the game, the Final Fantasy Origin, is so painfully telegraphed that they basically put no effort in hiding its twist, if you could call it that, in the marketing of the game itself. But Strangers of Paradise does fan service well. There are 15 levels, and while each level is a location from the world of Final Fantasy I, each location is designed after a notable area from every single mainline Final Fantasy game. You'll see the Chaos Shrine alright, but you'll also see a Mako Reactor, King Wraithwall's tomb, the Crystal Tower. The music therein is not necessarily straight remixes of said games, but their musical motifs are prominent, and as a longtime fan, I gotta admit, it works on me. There is a bit of a post-game, but it's basically a harder difficulty setting and new enemy rush levels where you can get even higher level equipment. With the promise of a battle pass and future DLC, I'm hoping there are some more worthwhile areas to explore, since way too much of the Final Fantasy I world went completely ignored. After finishing in about 25 hours, I had no desire to play more, because I don't get much enjoyment out of the constant rain of loot just to sift through it, just to see if my numbers go up. Ultimately, that's what Strangers of Paradise is about. Getting stuff. Finding some equipment, then finding higher level equipment, seeing numbers go up. It's a familiar formula popularized by games like Destiny or Borderlands or even Square Enix's own Marvel's Avengers. The combat is great and a lot of fun, but that driving loop of just trying to get new stuff so you can get higher item levels, that's not enough to retain attention. Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin earns a 7 out of 10. If you play it single player, it can be tiresome, especially if you're not used to the loot fest kind of game. It's an easy recommendation if you play it co-op though, which all in all, for a Final Fantasy spin-off game, it's one of the better ones.
The past leaves scars behind. Ignore them. Are you Chaos?